It all begins with two young men taking different paths towards the same goal. One is being recruited to infiltrate the police department, while the other is asked to go undercover into a major crime organization. Each man is tasked with the goal of finding the mole within their respective organizations. One man shields himself with a false criminal past but stays true to his noble character. The other man hides behind an honorable profession and reveals that there's more to being a good person than just pretending to be one. In the end comes a climactic rooftop confrontation between both moles, and the good guy dies for all his efforts. Sounds like the plot for 2006's The Departed, doesn't it? Well, it's actually 2002 Hong Kong's Infernal Affairs. Infernal Affairs is the first film from a trilogy co-written and co-directed by Hong Kong director Alan Mak. My claim is that Martin Scorsese's Oscar for The Departed was only possible through the work of Alan Mak. Because Scorsese's direction was not original or creative in its process, the remake was a direct translation of the original film, and the character additions and minor plot changes did not contribute to the film's success. Let's begin by seeing why Scorsese lacked originality and creativity in his direction. Scorsese did not have original or creative ways to film The Departed. In an interview on EmmanuelLevy.com, Martin Scorsese stated that The Departed is not a remake of that film. Our film was inspired by Infernal Affairs because of the nature of the story. However, the world Monahan created is very different from the Hong Kong film. After Scorsese won the Oscar for The Departed, the South China Morning Post reported that Alan Mak said he didn't want his script to be changed too much when it was first turned into a film by his co-director, Andrew Lau. When it was used for the second time, he had hoped there would be some new elements presented in the remake. Now that you've found out the original director's view on the originality of the remake, let's find out how both films were similar. Scorsese worked off of a directly translated script and used ideas of part of the Infernal Affairs trilogy to create a background story for the main characters of his film. In one interview with USA Today, screenwriter of The Departed, William Monahan, stated that he made it a point to not watch the original film, and that both films were culturally different, but in a different interview, he specified that he worked from a direct translation of the script. Take the first part of the ending, for instance. The undercover finds out the identity of the mole because of the envelope on the mole's desk. In The Departed, one of the gangsters misspells the word citizens, and the undercover crosses it out to correct him. In Infernal Affairs, the gangster misspells the word bodyguard by writing the Chinese character for it incorrectly. Since you've been able to picture how similar both movies were, let's delve into how the changes in the remake did not contribute to the film's success. The character additions and minor plot changes did not contribute to the success of the remake. Film critic Ram Ganesh stated, "I remember while watching Infernal Affairs, I was on the edge of my seat all the time. Andy Lau and Tony Leung held you captive. You just do nothing except watch wide-eyed and enjoying every moment of it, waiting to see what happens next. It was visual assault." But The Departed, with all the fancy backstories and forced emotional connections, lacked and sounded hollow. Infernal Affairs, with its simple story, was far more emotional and far more believable. The Departed exchanged two female characters for one love interest for both main characters, and added Mark Wahlberg's character. In the end of The Departed, Mark Wahlberg's character killed Matt Damon's character. In Infernal Affairs, the mole doesn't even get killed or arrested. It doesn't matter which ending audiences like. What matters is that Infernal Affairs was able to produce a trilogy from which Brad Pitt and his production company bought the rights to remake. The remake's success relied heavily on the original's plot, but with a different ending, a successful sequel to The Departed is not possible. My claim that Martin Scorsese's Oscar for The Departed was only possible through the work of director Alan Mak, because Scorsese's direction was not original or creative. The remake was a direct translation of the original film, and the character additions and minor plot change did not contribute to the film's success. The next time you watch an Oscar-nominated Scorsese film, take into consideration the reasons behind its worthiness.
Minutes 31 seconds.
All right. All right, I thought that you had a nice visualization as an attention device. You've got a clear statement of your proposition. What you don't have at the beginning is a preview of what the secondary points are going to be. You signpost the first of those secondary points, so that was pretty clear, but the second and the third points are not signposted in the body of the speech. If you're listening carefully, you'll hear them, but remember, I've said it before, audiences are passive and they aren't always listening as carefully as you might want them to. So you need to help them out a little bit, and I think that you missed an opportunity to do that. At the end of the speech, I do think you rescue yourself a little bit because I thought there was a good summary reminding us of what the key points were. So if you're listening at that point, you can kind of go back and refill in the arguments that you've made and see how they combine to advance your claim. I thought you had some good examples to illustrate your point in the presentation. You cite the critic at one point who's evaluating both films. Of course, that's going to be one of those things that the respondent's going to be looking at if people have different opinions on both films and how they see it. You obviously found somebody to support the position that you've got. It is a little bit subjective about their opinion because there are some judgments that are artistic in nature that are going on there. You got to be a little bit careful about the artistic nature here because that gets close to value claims. The main question is going to be whether or not it is substantially different and whether or not it is successful because of those differences. Those seem to be the inferences that you're dealing with, and I thought that you did an okay job suggesting that the differences either were technically not significant or that the film was successful because of the original elements and not because of the changes. At least you got us thinking about that. All right, thank you.